to the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and We are only at the end of match day 5 and already Allegri out is trending on social media after a humiliating defeat for Juventus against Sassuolo 4-2 on Saturday. So we'll be breaking down that horror show and what it means for Juventus' prospects this season and what it means again for Max Allegri. Are Juventus set for another dismal season? Inter, though, continue their 100% record in Serie A, beating Empoli thanks to a wonder goal by Federico Dimarco. Does he have the best left foot in Europe, maybe? We'll discuss that. Champions Napoli fall 7 points now behind the leaders Inter after another draw, as Victor Osimhen misses a penalty and then he rages at manager Rudi Garcia after being subbed off. Looks like Garcia has already lost the dressing room. Milan, though, are back to winning ways as Rafael Leao silences critics after all those misses against Newcastle. Meanwhile, Lazio are also in crisis. They're booed off the pitch in Rome after drawing 1-1. So 3 big teams in a bit of a crisis. We also have, I've never seen anything like this, we have a Prem-demic this week. I'm not sure I've ever seen so many Prem faces in 1 week, and my alter ego is one of them. So make sure you listen to the end for Baggio and Prem face of the week. We'll also preview the midweek Serie A action, which is taking place on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So for all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including our weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. And you can also now sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify, and we will provide the link in the description. It's the same price, same terms as if you were to go through Patreon. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify or on Apple or on iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating or give us a follow, give us a like. We're also on YouTube as well. It really helps us to grow and do more quality content. So let's get into today's show. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Making your own podcast is fun, but the production of podcasts can also be challenging if you don't have the right software. With Zencastr, the whole process is quick and straightforward. Here at the Italian Football Podcast, we aim to have the highest of standards, and Zencastr provides crystal clear sound and fantastic HD video quality. Furthermore, it's really easy to use. Even boomers like Carlo can manage. There's nothing to download, just one click, and we start recording each episode. Zencastr ensures that your podcasting experience is easy and enjoyable. You don't even have to leave your browser, as it possesses all the tools required to get the episode done, from local recording to automatic post-productions. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code ItalianFootball, one word. You'll get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. We want you to have the same easy experiences that we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Okay, difficult to know whether to start with the Juventus or Napoli, but let's start with Juventus because there are more Juventus fans than Napoli fans and more angry Juventus fans than Napoli fans.
It depends, because Napoli fans are going for Rudi Garcia's head right now.
Yes, they are. They are going for Rudi Garcia. We'll be getting to that. Don't worry, Nima. But Juventus, I don't know where to start on here. I mean, first of all, from a neutral's point of view, I'm sure, Nima, you enjoyed this game greatly. It was an amazingly entertaining game.
It was a very entertaining game, but the quality, look, you know me about when it comes to, like, I like cohesive defending. I do not like when it turns into a game of basically lads drunk playing football. And some of the defending and organization on Juventus' part and the individual errors, which is not anything tactical. It's just incompetence, arrogance. I don't know what to call what Szczesny and Gatti were doing. They were competing in who was more of an idiot. That's the only thing I can say. I remember there was in Gothenburg in one of the most classic. I mean, when you talk about crazy football presidents and crazy Italian football presidents, there was one who's not Italian, but he's definitely honorary Italian. He's not alive anymore. He was from Gothenburg. His name was Bertil Kristiansson. He was the president of Västra Frölunda IF, and he was mental. And I remember one time, he used to be the speaker at games, and when he was annoyed at coaches not making substitutions, he used to put on the microphone and say, Frölunda are considering making a substitution, and then turned it off. One of the craziest things he ever did was at halftime, he went to Filip Apelstav, who was back then actually a Swedish international, at halftime, I think it was, and told him in the dressing room at halftime in a league game, that was the worst defensive error in the club's 80-year-old history, and then just walked out. That's what I wanted to tell Federico Gatti, what I didn't want to tell Gatti, because I don't know what to tell you. What him and Chesney, I'll tell them both that. I don't know where to begin with this. I could not believe what I was watching.
No, I think it's up there. Gatti's is up there with maybe top 3 or 5 most embarrassing mistakes ever in Serie A history. I can't think of many worse than that. Can you?
I really can't.
Off the top of your head, can you think of anything?
Well, our good Romanian friend Andrei Ionut Radu will always be there, and of course Gresco as well.
But I mean, those were like more important errors because they cost the title. But I mean, in terms of actual error itself, I mean, this was worse than those. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And then the same for Szczesny as well. But this was...
What is he doing? What was he doing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can blame the rain a little bit, but I mean, you can't really. But I mean, this was just, like you said, I mean, this was one of the worst Juventus' performances since Allegri's return. It was every area of the pitch, the attack, the midfield, the defence, collectively, individually, except for Chiesa, he was the only one that played well. Everyone else was terrible. But the defence, we have to start with the defence, as you said, because I have to say this. The biggest remaining myth in football is that Allegri teams are good defensively. They were in his first spell. They're not in his second spell. The numbers back it up. You look at the last 2 seasons and a bit since he's taken over. Juventus since he returned, Juventus have conceded 115 goals in 113 games and 6 in 5 this season. And now that is not a good defensive record. It's not an awful defensive record, but it's not a good defense. If you're conceding more than a goal a game, that's not a good defensive record, and it's certainly not going to have no chance.
I think a lot of that is I don't get what you're alluding to, and I think a lot of it is structural issues, but a lot of it, as we saw with Gatti that game and Szczesny, is also some players should not be playing. Some of these players should not be playing at Juve. Gatti for me was not just the error. It's also for Berardi's goal. He's the one who aimlessly, like a headless chicken, lobs the ball upfield, right into the Sassuolo player's feet, right at his feet. I mean, it's just, I think I've been kind of on the fence because there's some things I've seen from him that I really like, but that was, I mean, and I don't want to say too much because you can have a horrible game, you can absolutely have an awful stinker of a game. So I want to wait a little bit, but I don't want to see Gatti in the Juventus lineup for at least a couple of weeks now, because that is just the mistakes like that have to have consequences. They have to have repercussions. That's kind of
Harry Maguire kind of mistakes, just like really clumsy and just
stupid,
brainless, and just big
headless chicken. I don't know what.
I mean. Pub defending. It's not even pub defending, but what we saw from Juventus in this game. I mean, the first and fourth goals, you wouldn't even see that from pub players who were hungover from, as you would say, from the night before. I mean, that's how bad those. And then even the Berardi goal, the space that was allowed to him to get that shot
just
away.
To build up to it. I mean, Gatti was the one who gave the ball away needlessly in the build-up phase when Juventus were moving up the pitch. That's when you literally do not make those kinds of mistakes, and he did it. It's just, no.
It wasn't just these 4 goals. I mean, Juventus were opened up so many times, especially in the second half. I didn't think the first half wasn't as bad structurally for Juventus. The second half structurally was as bad as I've ever seen Juventus under Allegri. They were opened up time and time again. Loriente missed 2 sitters. Defrel hit the bar. I mean, it should have been 6 or 7, really.
Yeah.
But the way that Juventus was so open in that second half, it was, again...
I don't understand what happened. I don't understand what happened. And I wonder, it feels like this Juve side are mentally fragile. And what happens to teams, to big teams whose squads are mentally fragile, is that when your goalkeeper, usually the more experienced player, makes a howler like Szczęsny does, this has a tendency to then become an earthquake that goes through the entire team. And I think that's what we saw. I think Szczęsny's mistake set the tone for Gatti to then do the other mistake, which led to Berardi's goal, and then they both kind of combined for the masterpiece that was that own goal. This is what I feel, that there are so many players at Juve, I feel that psychologically, from a mental point of view, are not da Juve in terms of. Well,
I think mentally there is a mental issue there. There has to be, because I just think that some of these errors they made in this game are just inexplicable for players at this level. You just wouldn't,
because they crumble under the pressure.
You wouldn't make mistakes like Gatti did unless you've got something mentally weighing over you that affects you and makes you perform like that. But at the same time, I think that when you look at Juventus, how structurally bad they were, you can only put that on the manager. Again,
that 100%.
You can only put that on the manager, and
totally.
And I say it again. I mean, Juventus coming to the game, I took the piss. I put a tweet out where I said, if Juventus weren't playing in Europe and they had a week to prepare they might have done all right in this game, and they might have be able to challenge for the skill. That's the hilarious thing about it. Juventus somehow looked. I mean, what were they doing? What preparation did they do this? And they've had a whole week to prepare. While Inter, Milan, Napoli have been going out playing in Europe, getting exhausted. Juventus have had a whole week to prepare, and then they come out and they prepare like this, and they come out and they play like this. I mean, it's I just think that yes, it helps having a week to prepare. We saw what Antonio Conte did when playing once a week. But if it's the same, and I'm sorry I have to keep repeating myself again, but if it's the same coach with the same ideas, outdated ideas, playing once a week won't suddenly produce a miracle. Because if it did, then all the teams who don't qualify in Europe down the league, they would suddenly be Scudetto challengers. Because that's how far off I see Juventus right now. When you see a performance like that, I mean, they're way off. They're absolutely miles off being a Scudetto challenger. What we saw, I think yesterday showed, the game on Saturday showed just how far off Juventus are. And structurally, I mean, the patterns of play, I've said that the only improvements I've seen this season are Juventus are playing with a higher line, and they've been playing with more intensity. The intensity in this game disappeared. They looked tired. They looked exhausted, which makes no sense to me. You have to question their athletic preparation. If after a week's preparation for a game and no midweek game, they can look so tired physically. I mean, the second half, Sassuolo were taking over physically in the game. Juventus were off their feet in the second half. And to expand on that. So the intensity went. But what I've also said, even during this reasonably good start to the season, is I've still seen no patterns of play. I've still seen no identity.
No, there are patterns of play.
There's none. There's none.
Against Lazio, we've seen patterns of play. Against Udinese, we saw patterns of. We've seen patterns of play. What we have seen now is what I think is This reminds me of Inter and Milan's banter era, quote unquote, in the sense that there's no real identity at the club. There's no real identity in the team. It's a mishmash of players and of differing qualities. And even if you have an experienced manager there, or a good manager there, or even a world-class manager there, he is either, he's a little bit maybe past his best or whatever. And then he's trying to make it work like he did last time. It's not working. The insecurity creeps in. The experienced players start messing up and doing ridiculous things. That then sends shockwaves through the team. They start crumbling. this is, I feel Juventus, like the way that psychologically Juventus reminded me against Sassuolo of when Inter and Milan were in their quote-unquote banter era, in the sense that you could even have really good players there, but the overall quality was so... I mean, I think this Juventus side is levels better than both Inter and Milan's banter era teams. They were atrocious. I'm talking about from a psychological point of view. And that's where I feel Juve are so psychologically fragile. And
I wish it was just a psychological. I wish it was just a psychological issue, because then that would be easy to solve. I just don't think it is a psychological issue. Because
if it's a
look at the
issue,
team,
you have
the way that
team.
the team play. I don't see any patterns of play. I have to be honest. Even those other games, I don't see any. I saw good moments of play, good intensity. They've had good intensity this season. They played with a higher line. They've been more aggressive. They've been more angry, and they've wanted it more than the opponents. And from that, they've smothered teams, and they've not, like Lazio couldn't get out. But then you also have to ask the question, how much of that was down to Lazio being bad, because they've been awful as well this season. But Juventus in this game, no shots on goal to the 78th minute, and
it was dreadful.
I mean that's just abysmal. That goes with their defense. I mean, so they were abysmal in attack, abysmal in defence. They had nothing in midfield. I mean, I asked the question here: what is the point of Allegri? I feel like we're Graham Souness here, but what is the point?
You truly are. It's like you walk around the house going, you have to ask yourself, where is Allegri's responsibility?
I keep using those words, don't I? But what is the point? I have to ask this. This is important, though. What is the point of Allegri? His teams can't attack. We've longer since established that is a big weakness of him, right? And we saw that again in this game. No shots on goal to the 78th minute, right? His teams now can't even defend well like they used to be, as my stats showed and as this game showed. He can't develop or improve players. Nearly all the main players and offensive players he's had in this second spell have either regressed or they've stagnated under Allegri. He can't create an actual team as a collective that has the cohesion or the patterns of play and collectively is better than the sum of its parts. Now, even if you accept that some of these players aren't good enough, well, Allegri's not getting to play better than they are. So, what is the point of Allegri? I just don't see what he brings. I mean, I know there's a financial angle. I know he's on a ridiculous wage and everything. But do Juventus fans just have to sit and wait this out and write off another season, a third written off season until he hopefully goes? I mean, if it was me, and if I can just say a solution, if it was me, I would just get rid of him, pay him off, bring in someone on. I mean, most coaches in Serie A are paid like $2 million a year or less, most of them. It costs you an extra $1 to $2 million a year to get someone. Maybe they're not even a big name, but just get somebody else. Just get somebody that can bring one benefit. If that manager can't defend, he can only attack. If that manager can't attack or defend, but he can develop young players and improve some of these young players, just bring someone in that can bring some benefit. Because I see no benefit to Allegri at all. I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm on some kind of crusade to prove that I was right when I said that Allegri shouldn't have come back. I'm just saying it as I see it. I don't see anything that Allegri brings. I see nothing at all that he brings that someone else couldn't do at least do at least bring something. So that's the issue that I have right now. I know nothing's going to happen, but I just have to say it. You can probably sense how frustrated I am.
No, I get the frustration. Don't get me wrong. I completely get that. If you're, from a Juventus point of view, you should be frustrated. You should be angry because this was embarrassing. It was genuinely embarrassing. The atteggiamento, the attitude, the approach to the game was shocking by Juve players. And it's like, is anyone in that club left from the old Juve who can go in there and scream at them and tell them, do you understand where you are? Like that's what I feel you might need. But I wonder if it even gets to them because they looked so mentally fragile, weak, scared. It was a strange game. I didn't understand it. And here's the kicker for me. I didn't even think that Sassuolo were that good. I thought it was a mediocre Sassuolo.
Not only they're not good, Nima, they're not just in general, they're not a good team. You take away their attack, and everybody knows.
I mean overall,
everyone knows what we think of Pinamonti.
Yeah,
of course. But I mean, Loriente and Berardi are good players. They're good players. Of course, they're good players. They're not outstanding players, but they're good to very good players. Yeah, they can always be dangerous against any team.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I mean, you look at the defense is terrible. The midfield is pretty average. And Juventus
But
even
I'm just talking
outplayed in
about
midfield.
Game itself, Carlo.
No, but that's what I mean. I mean,
good in this game. If you have a really good game, you can say, well, you got to give credit to the opposition as well. I can't really do that because I don't think Sassuolo were that good. I thought they just did what they've done this season. The difference here was that they played a woefully awful team.
Yeah. No, for sure. This team lost 4-2 to Frosinone last week. I mean, that should tell you everything that you need to know about just how bad this was from Juventus. I have to say, though, just to get a little bit deeper into this, I don't like the 3-5-2. I don't like it. It's too rigid for me. And we'll come on to that. But, I mean, it suffers. A 3-5-2, we know a rigid 3-5-2 can suffer against a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3 on the wings. And that's exactly what happened. Berardi and Llorente had so much space. And also, when you're then playing with a more aggressive high line, pushing your fullbacks, your wingbacks further forward, then they're going to exploit that space in the wings if structurally the team isn't, working, as it's not structurally. It's not working. Didn't work at all. So they were having a field day in those wide areas, Llorente and Berardi. But I have to say one thing, and this I said this. Remember, after the first game against Udinese, and even the pre-season, we were expressing our shock about, Juventus are playing inverted fullbacks. They've gone all modern. They've all gone almost De Zerbi, with all this modern stuff that Allegri, what the hell's going on? Is it Magnanelli? People are saying, well, actually, it's Magnanelli that's coaching the team. Well, the first sign of, I said, the key thing will be at the first sign of trouble, will Allegri just revert to type? And that's exactly what's happened. Cambiasso has been abandoned. The first game, and after the Bologna game, Cambiasso has been abandoned. The inverted fullback experiment's been abandoned. Kostic is now starting every game. We've got Kostic and McKennie. McKennie's not even a wing back, and he's actually been one of Juventus' better players this season. But you've got Kostic who just runs in straight lines. You've got the same team. Weah doesn't start. Weah, I'm not going to give a grade on Weah. It's too early. But Juventus are playing the same. Allegri's playing the same team that failed last season. So what do people expect? You can't. What do people expect, that just because Juventus are out of Europe, that the same team that failed last season in terms of challenging at the top, are going to suddenly be good enough this season just because they're only playing once a week? I mean, it doesn't work like that. You don't just miraculously, things don't just improve like that. So this is why, I was kind of a little bit excited about the inverted fullback, because it was something new. It was something that, okay, that might bring something extra. Yet it's abandoned, and we're back to the same.
I don't know if it's abandoned or not, but what I want to see is, I don't understand what happening in Sassuolo. The mental aspect of it, and for Juve this season, you can never count out Juve, and that's true. And I do think they have some quality players. But Juve's goal this season has to be to finish in the top four. That's the only thing that matters. And they are on course on doing that.
I'm sure they'll do that. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
I mean, just same with Napoli.
Because I'm looking at the other teams. Yeah, exactly. Because I'm looking at the other teams: Atalanta, Fiorentina, Lazio. I mean,
they will do that. And that's the thing that matters. But then at the end of this season, he will only have 1 year left on his contract. I can't imagine a situation where Allegri doesn't leave. I honestly would be incredibly surprised if we reach the end of this season and Allegri continues past this season. Honestly.
Well, I guess it depends. If he doesn't have another offer, he might see out his contract.
No, I see that. Then it becomes a situation where actually they can actually turn around and go, well, Max, you've been here 3 years. Yeah, you've been a rock that we can rely on throughout all of this madness that has been absolutely not your fault.
And he says, okay, thank you, pay me.
Yeah, well, they will have to agree to something, but they won't pay him a full payout, but I think they will give him something to leave, because I just don't see how this continues. Because I think Juventus are now with Giuntoli there. He needs to set the identity of the new Juve. And I just don't see how he does that. That was a big
mistake. I mean, I know there's a financial angle to this, but that was a big mistake. They should have just Giuntoli. We know Giuntoli and Allegri are not two people that work together. They have different visions of football. They should have, if Giuntoli was going to come here and change things, they should have just sorted Allegri out. I don't mean sorted out like kind of mafia style, sorted out. But
Max Allegri sleeps with the fishes.
The Camorra, Giuntoli calls the Camorra from Napoli, Naples. But away from Allegri though, 2 questions. First of all, Szczesny, after his 2 blunders, should Perin be the number 1 now?
Yes. Absolutely. Because, again, I am of the opinion that howlers like that, not 1, not 2, but however many, they should have repercussions. I think you need to basically not in a punitive manner, but also remove him, allow him to rebuild himself, to understand that this is not acceptable, and also to kind of rebuild himself up slowly again. I think Perin should start. I think Gatti and Szczesny should just not go anywhere near the Juventus team for at least 4 weeks, if possible, and work themselves slowly.
He has confirmed him as the starter, by the way. So, Szczesny, that is. So I don't think it's going to happen, or if it does, it will only be, to give him a breather, not because he's been dropped. But we will see. I actually think that Perin might be better. Looking at the stats last season, he was actually statistically, in many areas, the best goalkeeper in Serie A last season.
He is a very good goalkeeper.
Obviously, with a small
second.
Obviously with a small sample size, so he didn't play enough.
I think
games.
Perin is too good to play back up to anyone.
I agree. I think
starting.
I think he's a top 10 Serie A goalkeeper.
Yeah, without a doubt. I really rate him. I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah. The other point is Vlahovic. We said after last week when we praised him for those 2 brilliant goals, world class finishes, half chances against Lazio, that it's been a weird season for Vlahovic. He'd played 4 games, 2 of them he'd played really good in, and then 2 of them he'd been terrible in. And we said, well, we need to see consistency. So what does he do in this game? He plays absolutely terrible. He played terrible again. Yeah, he was terrible. And there was 2 moments in the first half that really kind of summed up where Vlahovic is. Chiesa, who I thought was really, really good in this game, the only Juventus player. He scored and he created a lot. Chiesa put 2 balls on a plate for him. It did one where he cut it onto his left foot and curled it towards the far post. Brilliant cross from Chiesa. Vlahovic just misread the flight of the ball. How can an 80 million euro striker misread the flight of a ball? I mean, it's insane. And it would have been a simple header into virtually an open net if he had just read the flight. So that is one. I actually think people say he's good in the air. I actually don't. I actually disagree. I don't think he is very good in the air. More because I'm not sure about the way he times his runs and he gets himself into positions for crosses. Because I think there's a stat that goes out there that Kostic, I think, has only assisted 1 goal for him, or maybe 2 or something like that. So from crosses. So yeah, that needs to improve. And also there was a miscontrol where Chiesa put another great cross on the ground, and he did a touch like Lukaku circa 2016. I mean, it was unbelievable. So
no, it's strange with him. He is an enigma, and like he one game like against Lazio, I thought he was world class against Lazio, but then he turns into this, and he turned up again and was just.
But even during those world-class performances,
this time, I mean, it was just.
But Nima, even during those world-class performances, we both still said that his all-round game is still not good enough.
No,
even during those games, he was making up for that with just those world-class finishes. So,
and also the consistency, like that's what separates the best, the absolute top players from the others, is that they do it on a weekly basis. And Vlahovic has problems with that. I don't know. I was very, very stunned. For me, the Sassuolo game was for Juve. The Juve Sassuolo game was just whoa.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to give a shout out though to Sassuolo's attack. As easy as Juventus made it for them, but
they really did make it easy for them.
Berardi, we have to give credit. He was brilliant. He's got a great goal, great curling goal. Yeah. But there was one genius pass. Did you see it? That genius assist for Loriente, kind of like with the outside of his boot, magical for Loriente. And Loriente had to mess it up, otherwise it would have been one of the beautiful moments of the Serie A season. He was great, and he doesn't often play against Juve, Berardi. Well, that's been like one of the kind of unconfirmed conspiracies that Berardi never plays against
because
Juventus.
he was owned by Juve. I mean,
he finally played against them, and probably Juventus tried to sign him in the summer, so he probably made them pay for that. So yeah, he was good. Loriente caused a lot of trouble, bad finishing. Even Pinamonti's had a good start to the season.
He's got 4 goals.
He's got 4 goals.
4 goals. Yeah. It's mental. Yeah, I know.
He showed his poaching skills with that header. That was actually a brilliant finish. That was a brilliant finish.
No. That's what he is. He is a poacher. But the thing is, football, it's the strikers don't. If you're just that poacher, you don't. You don't play for the biggest sides and football the way
absolutely.
It looks. So
yeah, I agree. And Henrique and Bolocca outplayed the Juventus midfield. So yeah, disaster all round for Juventus. Disaster all round for Napoli as well. They moved from one under fire coach to another. So Napoli in the Sunday...
One shitstorm to another, basically.
Yeah, the Sunday evening game, they drew 0-0 at Bologna. But I have to say, first of all, before we really get deep into Garcia, I thought Napoli were unlucky in this game. I thought Napoli, actually, if I'm being totally fair, this was an improved Napoli in this game. And, I mean, look at the XG. Napoli had an XG of 2.13 to 0.21 in the first half. Bologna had 0 shots and had a 0 XG. So, Napoli, if we're being totally fair, Napoli controlled this game. They created more than enough chances to win. They obviously missed a penalty. This was a better Napoli, but they didn't win. And they're now 7 points behind Inter already, which is insane after 5 games. But the biggest talking point is this, really. Has Garcia lost a changing room?
That's the thing that, I mean, if we get to the Garcia point, but if we talk about this game in and of itself, I think Nathan was very good. I liked Nathan Østigård. That's what I wanted to see. I got to see it. I'm happy. I loved seeing the front three of Hvicha, Raspadori, and Osimhen. I thought Hvicha was better than in a very long time. Raspadori is always dangerous. He likes to play with players of that quality, brings best out of him. The midfield I thought was good. But the thing is this, they are unlucky. They are absolutely unlucky. But the problem is that, again, like we've said for a couple of seasons, 2 points. First one, we've said for a couple of seasons, Napoli's issue with penalties, like this is a genuine problem now. I saw on Twitter a very good an account that I really like, who always tweets out interesting things. His name is Marco Vidoretti. He's a freelance football researcher, statistician. I love his handle. It's Robbie Badge and then 10. He tweeted out and says, of the penalties not converted in the Serie A this season, 50% have come from Napoli. So 50% of the missed penalties in the Serie A after match day 5 have been missed by Napoli. Okay, now it's not a big sample size, but this is something we've discussed for a long time now. Napoli's issues they don't have a penalty taker that is reliable and scores. And that cost them today because, sweet mother of God, Osimhen I thought was brilliant in this game, was very good as always. But that was one of the most horrific penalty misses I have seen in my life. He missed the entire goal by such a wide margin. It was genuinely poor. And then, of course, the second point.
Well, yeah, just to stay on the penalties. I mean, last season, it cost them, we said it would cost them probably the Champions League. And
it did. It did.
And they missed, I mean, I don't know how many different penalty takers they had last season, and they were all as bad as each other. They all missed. I think there was about 6 or 7 Napoli players missed penalties last season. They were all terrible at them. And Osimhen, if there's one weakness in Osimhen's game, is he can't take penalties. I mean, have a look at his record. He cannot take penalties, Osimhen. And the
second point I wanted to make,
it's a huge problem. I actually tweeted that Napoli are like the England of club football when it comes to penalties because they're so bad at penalties.
You just weave that in everywhere, don't you? But yeah, no. And the second point I wanted to make is, like we said on Thursday, there's something wrong at Napoli. There is no. This is a side that has just won their first Scudetto in such a long time, since Maradona. They are not at all comfortable. They don't act like reigning champions. They act like they're a club in complete turmoil. Not like reigning champions. I mean, it'd be one thing if you behaved like a club that was a little bit, overestimating yourself and who you are, or the squad was overestimating themselves because we're the champions. No, Napoli are acting like a club, like a squad and a club that is in complete dissolution. Everyone's angry with everyone else. There's no harmony. Everyone looks stressed. The vibe, everything around Napoli is just so bad and negative.
Well, I think we know what the common denominator is. It's been clear in the last two games because Kvaratskhelia, and this is why I asked the question: Has Rudi Garcia lost and changed?
Yes.
Because last week when Kvaratskhelia came off, he did the Italian typical Italian hand gesture of like, what the, why are you taking me off? With his hand, which is not good. You don't, that's not a good thing to do against your manager when it's public. Well, we saw it again today when Osimhen was taken off with 5 minutes to go, and he angrily started shouting at Rudi Garcia. And Rudi Garcia, sniped back at him as well. I mean, if your two best players, your two superstars, are both publicly, going at your manager like that, then what does that tell you about the atmosphere in the camp, the respect or the lack of respect for the manager, the lack of trust in the manager? I mean, I think it speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I was very critical of this from the minute it was that he came. And I would, you know what? I'm not a big fan of sacking coaches, you know that. But to be honest, I would sack him tonight, because when you see how much the players dislike him, or even if they don't dislike him, there's no feeling there. They've had months and months and months to work together. They've not really done that much on the transfer window in terms of bringing players in. They're all, it's the same team. He's had time to work with them, and they just cannot seem to get along. And you see Osimhen losing his crap the way he did. Whether you like it or not, and you can argue that, Victor, you should probably be angry at yourself for blowing away a penalty, which would have meant that you won that game. But regardless, there's something off there. And to me, you're not going to be able... What do? Do you get rid of Osimhen?
Garcia doesn't help himself.
Well, do you get rid of Osimhen and Kvara, or do you get rid of Rudi Garcia? And to me,
of course,
it's a no-brainer.
I mean, it's absolute madness. If you're 0-0 and you're chasing a must-win, a must-win victory with 5 minutes to go, you don't take off Osimhen, your best player. I mean, that's utter madness. It's insanity taking him off. I thought it was insanity taking Kvara off, because he was actually playing really well tonight. He just won the penalty. He was really good tonight, Kvara. The goal, if he keeps playing like that, the goal will come for him. I know he's going through a nightmare time. He hasn't scored since March, but he's slowly getting there. He's not this disaster finish, one season wonder that some people are trying to say. He's getting close there. It's just not going for him. But he was good tonight. He should have stayed on to the end. But at least with Kvara, you can say, well, maybe he's not fully fit. Maybe they need to be careful with him so he doesn't get a recurrence of his injury. But taking Osimhen off, that's madness. How can you take off your best player? So no wonder you get that reaction from Osimhen. Because if a coach is making that kind of decision, you have to question the competency of the manager for making an absolute mad decision like that. And also you have to look, I mean, Osimhen's gone 4 games without a goal now. I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, that's how is that even possible for Osimhen to go 4 games without a goal?
But he's been so unlucky as well. I mean, how many times has he hit the woodwork in these games as well? Like, that's the thing. I can't. He's definitely leading the woodwork league in Europe. He's hit it so many times. So it's he's had a bit of bad luck. with it as well. I mean, it's because we're talking about inches.
It's the new Tammy Abraham. Do you remember that? Not last season, the season before when Tammy Abraham hit the
woodwork. Yeah, at Roma. No, it's an issue.
I mean, I agree with you, Nima. I would sack him now only because everybody saw this coming.
That's the thing. It was
You just got to, sometimes you've got to make a decision now while it's
because the season is salvageable. The season is still
salvageable. I mean, 7 points is a lot at this stage of the season, but it's not insurmountable that with a good manager they could turn it around, and have a good season. They're still in the Champions League. They've still got top 4 to fight. I mean, top 4 is not even with Rudi Garcia. Top 4 is not. I mean, they should still be okay for top, but it's not an absolute gimme, is it? Top 4 because this is how bad Rudi Garcia is.
It's really, really bad. It's literally, if you look at the players, this isn't like you could say, well, after Mourinho won the treble with Inter, it was an old side. This isn't an old team.
No,
the key players are young. It's not like they've peaked. So
that's why I said last week, like I can't remember ever a team in their peak being the manager going, a new coach coming in, and that new coach destroying such a good team like Garcia has already done. Because those other examples that I used, like Mourinho to Rafa Benitez and Alex Ferguson to David Moyes at Man United, and Don Revie to Brian Clough at Leeds. These were teams that were aging teams. They had players that kind of like in their 30, or a lot of players like 30, hitting 30 or reaching 30 or above. So it's kind of understandable. Whereas this Napoli team's not at all. There's a team still in their peak.
No, it is. No, it's strange. It's really, really strange. And I wonder how long you go about this. What do you do?
I wonder with De Laurentiis, though, that he will go the other way around. He'll want to try and prove everyone wrong because he doesn't like being...
because it would be a huge loss for him. This was his choice. He didn't have a sporting director when he made that decision, so you can't blame it on anyone. This was on him, completely on him.
Like when you get in business or even in corporate, certainly get this in corporate places, that, when a boss, like a CEO or managing... or manager hires somebody, and that person that they've hired turns out to be a total disaster. But instead of doing the right thing and getting rid of them, they try and protect their own position, or obviously in De Laurentiis' past, their own reputation or pride, and they don't get rid of them. They stay with them because they're just thinking of themselves, protecting themselves, rather than what's actually good for the company or the club in this case. And I just wonder if De Laurentiis, knowing what he's like and what a narcissist he is, that he might think, I'm going to stick with him because I want to prove everyone, and that's just going to end up causing more damage to Napoli. That's what I wonder, because this is what he's like. I know he can be trigger happy, but at the same time, he's
but I mean, at the same time, he values his wallet more than anything, and then this could turn south very, very quickly, especially when there's not exactly much love and affection between the fans and Rudi Garcia already. So.
I haven't met a Napoli fan that doesn't hate him.
Me neither. I've met one or two who wants to give him time, but I've not seen anyone who's like, "Oh, Rudi, you're my guy." Like, no, I haven't.
No, a Neapolitan come into the bakery actually the other day, and he was having a right go at honestly, he was really laying into this elderly man. He was laying into to Rudi Garcia.
Absolutely love it.
Honestly, I haven't met a single person.
That cake shop is like I love it. I've never been, but I want it to be like, I want a reality show where they just film everything.
It's coming. Don't worry. New videos coming this week. Don't you worry.
I'm sure they are. No, I just want to see everything that happens in that cake shop that you guys run. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's about as dysfunctional as Napoli. I can tell you. I can tell you that. Right. Let's move on to let's give a praise to Bologna. I actually didn't think they were very good in this game. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I was actually disappointed with Bologna. I thought they were ridiculously negative. So unlike Thiago Motta to be this negative. They had a 0 XG in the first half.
They
0.
had nothing in the first half.
But at the end of the day, they've drawn with Juventus and Napoli this season, and they played well against Milan. They've had a tough start.
I'm looking at Bologna's stats for the first half. Literally not a single shot. Not just on target off not a single shot. One corner, one yellow card. Sure, they had injuries. They were unlucky with they were forced to make 2 substitutions. 10 minutes in, Stefan Posch had to come in, and then midway through the second half, Calafiori came in. So they were unlucky, and they were under pressure, and Napoli were good. But I do agree with you that this was not exactly the best. This was not one of the better Thiago Motta performances.
No, this wasn't Motta football at all. But they got the draw, and they've had a very, very tough start to the season, ridiculously tough schedule. So we'll see how they play now against. I was disappointed with them against Verona as well, actually. So I want to see more from them. So I expect more from them. But anyway, let's move on to Inter, who win again, 100% record for Inter, 5 wins in a row, which has only been done how many times in history, Nima? Not
3 times before.
Yeah.
With Roberto Mancini, Helenio Herrera, and someone else who's eludes me right now. It was Mancini. I can't remember right now, but it's the 3rd time in history. It's the 4th time in Inter's history that this has happened. But every other time it has happened, Inter have not won the Serie A. Juventus have won it.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to happen this time. It's not going to happen this time.
Sorry, Antonio Conte. So this was. I've got it now. I've got the stat now. So Opta tweeted out that 1920, 15, 16, 66, 67, Inter won their first 5 opening matches in the Serie A. And every time those seasons, Juventus ended up winning it. And of course, 15, 16, Allegri was at Juve. So, it's not
going to happen. I think it's safe to say that it's not going to happen, because more so than anything, I mean, Inter just look unstoppable. They really do. They look like a machine.
Well, the thing is, this was not a good game by Inter. Let's be honest. Inter were not good in this game. They looked sluggish. They looked tired. They looked a bit out. They looked a bit like you do in the beginning of the season, if you know what I mean. When you've just come out of a tough preseason, when things aren't flowing, when things aren't, looking good, you look tired. The passing isn't there. There's no fluidity. The passing tempo wasn't there. Simone kept yelling for the first 60 minutes. Quicker passing, veloce.
I mean, but a bad Inter still has 23 shots to 7, 6 shots on target.
Yes, but Empoli are an awful side.
1.65 XG to 0.28. Yes, they are. They are a terrible side. But what I'm saying is, this is where we are with Inter. That even a bad Inter still has this kind of domination on a game. It's a good place to be.
It is a very good place to be, but then I want to segue over to the positive things, and I think no one embodies this better than Federico Dimarco, because he had an atrocious first half. He embodied everything that was wrong with Inter in the first half. He looked heavy. He looked tired. He looked unfit. He looked like he wasn't fully match fit. That like I said, when teams have had a heavy preseason and they look like almost they're a little bit run down and sore, and that's how they look. That's how he looked. He embodied it. He misplaced crosses, passes. His timing was off. His running was off. But then, the longer the game went on, or the first half went on, towards the end, Empoli got tired and were unable to put in the hard work that you have to do without possession. And Inter felt like their confidence grew and they worked themselves into the game. But what was really impressive was that this continued in the second half immediately. Like, basically picked off where they left off. And then Dimarco scores one of the most beautiful goals you'll probably see this season in the Serie A.
Unbelievable.
And then he builds off of that and is probably together with maybe Acerbi, Inter's best player today. And Pavard, who I thought was excellent as well, defensively, actually.
But let's talk about this Dimarco goal, though. I mean, it's an insane volley, left foot volley, where he kind of almost half slices across the ball. Across the ball, and then, bang, straight into the top corner. I mean, it was just gorgeous, gorgeous goal. And I've been thinking about this. I've debated this with a few people. I know there's different ways of rating a left foot. Let's say, you've got power, you've got accuracy, you've got set piece ability, you've got shooting, you've got crossing, you've got passing, you've got dribbling. There's lots of things that you can do with your foot in football. But I think with a left foot, is kind of, we always look at kind of, I guess, how sweet the left foot is, how good you are at long range shooting, the crossing, putting the ball where you want to put it with that left foot. Because there is something unique about a left foot that is not there with a right foot, isn't there? You get these kind of special players that with their left foot. And honestly, right now, does Dimarco have the best left? I wonder whether Dimarco does actually have the best left foot in Europe when it comes to many of these things. Certainly when it comes to long range shooting, when it comes to taking corners, when it comes to, putting the ball where you want to put it from 30 yards out in terms of creating something or taking a long shot. I don't think there's anyone better than Dimarco in Europe.
I mean, he's already scored 1 goal and had 3 assists. And we're on match day 5. So yeah, he's no, look, his left foot in terms of crosses, corners, set pieces, shooting, it is world class. There's no denying that. But then he can't beat his man, let's be honest. He can't dribble. He has acceleration, but he he's not very quick. Let me put it that way. He doesn't outrun anyone.
Which is why I mean purely how he hits the ball with his left foot. When it comes to a cross, or when it comes to a set piece, a corner, or when it comes to putting that ball, like he hardly ever gives the ball away. Like if he has to, when he gets the ball, he always uses it in the right way, which few people do. But I mean, like if you take David Beckham, for example, he's probably a little bit comparable actually. I
was going to say that's a really good comparison.
He's almost like a left-footed Beckham, because Beckham couldn't dribble, he couldn't beat his man, he wasn't particularly quick. No. He didn't score that many goals, but he was, he could. But he
was he had a magical right foot.
Yeah, he could put the ball exactly where he wanted. His crossing was undefended. You couldn't defend his crosses when he was at his best. When he was at his peak, his free kicks were fantastic as well.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, no, that's a really good comparison. But yeah, no. So what was so aside from that, if we take that, the positives was that Inter were in control. It got a little bit unnecessarily exciting towards the end. The perfect start to the season is important. They got Sassuolo at home, and then they got Salernitana away. These are all winnable games, or games that Inter should be banking, meaning winning, to go into the Champions League game at home against Benfica with 7 wins. And then you've got Bologna, and then you've got the international break. So Inter are in a very good position to put themselves in eight wins in a row to start the season, and that I think they have to, because it's going to be, especially now until Christmas, it's going to be it's going to be intense for them, because you've got the international break with the Euro qualifiers that are going to be decided as well. So it's going to be lots of games, and so Simone is going to have to rotate. But that's the thing. Winning when you're not playing well is a sign of strength. That's the teams that win leagues do that. And Inter so far have now done that with against Empoli for sure. They were not good. They won and they dominated despite not being very good. Yeah. But we have to talk about Arnautovic, because that was...
How bad is the injury then? It's a hamstring injury, right?
Well, the saying is, they're saying it's his left thigh or right thigh. Or I saw on Gazzetta saying that he could be out for 3 months.
Depends on the grade, doesn't it? That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, and
it's a grade 1, a grade 2, or grade 3.
And they're going to do a proper test.
They're
going to do a proper test tomorrow. But the way that he yelled, the way that he screamed with pain, I mean, that was not just someone pulling something, feeling some discomfort, or this was you saw. I don't know if you saw, but he was lying on the floor screaming with pain. So. Inzaghi was also, after the game said, look, we might play a 3-5-1-1, and they've got the midfielders for it. So
I think that has to be an option now because you can't. I don't think you can go play for a really busy period with only one alternative in attack, being Alexis Sanchez. I think you're going to have to go 3-5-1 and play some games with a 3-5-1, even if it's periods of games with a 3-5-1. You know, Sensi behind the striker or
Mkhitaryan playing behind the striker because you're not moving Çalhanoğlu, because that's something I wanted to say. He is now. It's so weird. He's now become what Brozovic used to be at Inter. Inter don't work when he's not on the pitch. When Çalhanoğlu's on the pitch, Inter click. It's just that simple.
Well, I said that, didn't I? Did I say that a few weeks ago? I said that. Is he? I asked the question. Is he the most irreplaceable? I think the most irreplaceable player.
Without a doubt, there is no backup to him. Asllani is clearly not ready. I don't know if he could one day be or not be, but he's not ready to be that guy. And Çalhanoğlu, I mean, we've yet to see Mkhitaryan really play in that role, so at Inter, so I don't want to say too much. But no, Çalhanoğlu is the reason that Inter, everything looks good when he's there. Everything looks balanced when he's on the pitch. And that's dangerous because that's a weakness as well, because if you mark him out or if if he's injured or like he was in the Champions League or if he's suspended, well, what happens then? Maybe 3-5-1-1 could counter that somehow. And maybe that could actually be the way that you unlock Asllani to get his confidence up as well, that you bring another body in midfield. But yeah, no, it's, but I think I got to hand it to, if we can talk about Empoli a little bit, I'm happy to see him back there, Aurelio Andreazzoli. Yes, but he is Empoli.
It's like the Guidolin. Guidolin of Empoli, like Guidolin to Palermo.
Yeah, but it's I like Andreazzoli, and I thought he was so unfairly. I said it on this pod when he was sacked after they brought in Zanetti. I thought it was unfair because I think he'd done a brilliant job, and I'm just so happy to see him back there. And I got to hand it to him. He's got them in just a few days. He's got them tighter. He's got
they were more organised. Yeah,
much more organised than they've ever been, than they were under Zanetti. And I still think they're going to finish dead last because I just don't think the quality is there. And I think they've sold too much and not invested enough. But I think they won't.
And we asked the question on our Patreon episode a few weeks ago, didn't we? Who's going to get more points this season? Well, Luton Town have taken a 1-0 lead. They got their first point of the season, Luton, on Saturday against Wolves. They should have won. They were playing against 10 men for like half a game, so they're not going to get a better chance. So Luton Town are ahead of Empoli by the 1 point.
Well, yeah, they did. They drew. You're right. So that's going to be an interesting little Anglo-Italian cup we got going. Who will get more points, Empoli or Luton? I can't remember if I thought Empoli would get more points. I think I said Empoli will get more points, but not by much. I think I questioned if both of them get into double digits in terms of points.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It's going to be a tough one for both of them. Right, let's talk about InvestCorp on Thursday because we've gone way over. Let's move on to Milan quickly. So Milan get back to winning ways after their hammering by Inter and then the 0-0 with Newcastle in a game in which they totally dominated. They win 1-0 against Verona. Now this wasn't a good game at all.
No,
I would even say Milan deserved to win this game. Actually, the stats show it. It was probably a draw. It was a game that deserved to be a draw, but Leao provided that one moment of quality. A great finish. He moved the ball slightly to his left before slotting past the goalkeeper, which is if you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper in a straight line with the goalkeeper, that's how you create the angle to slot it past him. You have to move the ball slightly to right or left to create that angle to put it past him. So that is the way to finish Rafael Leao after some terrible misses against Newcastle. It was nice to see him hug Pioli as well. But apart from that, I thought it was a tired performance, a bit like Inter, but worse than Inter. You kind of saw the first sign of the dip in intensity that you get when you play in Europe in midweek and really created very little. Giroud looked really tired. Where have we seen that before? Jovic came on and didn't really do much. I would say, though, one thing for Verona's point of view, Verona are better this season than expected.
Yeah, they really are.
I think we both of us thought they'd possibly go down. But I'm reassessing that now, and I'm actually thinking,
me too.
they look. Baroni's doing a good job. He's got them. They look organised. They look drilled. They all know what they're doing. They're collectively good, and they do actually have a bit of quality. And Ngonj, I think, is a good player. And Fodoruncu's been a really good signing from Napoli. I think he's on loan, isn't he? He's been really good. So,
but him and Isak Hien, who we've both praised.
Isak Hien should be playing at a high level. Sure.
No, but both of them, the defensive error that they did for that goal was just, come on, guys. Well, it was a week of defensive howlers, a weekend of defensive howlers, like unforced, unattacked. Both Fodoruncu and Isak were just, they gifted a goal to Milan. But I agree with you about Verona. They are better organizers. Baroni's a good coach, so I'm happy for him. I'm happy to see D'Aversa and Baroni have a good start to the season. Good, quality coaches, and I love to see Andrea Azzoli back at Empoli, who I have so much respect for. Very quick remark, because we're already coming up to an hour here. Saki's quotes on Leao being a problem for Milan. Leao, his quotes are, Leao, with his way of being on the pitch, with his lack of tracking back, with his lack of participation in the work of the group, is what doesn't allow you to become a collective, the team of Milan, that is. If you want to make a qualitative leap in the direction of a more European football, it is fundamental that everyone is functional to the project and that everyone knows how to sacrifice himself in the name of the team. So I think this is in reference to Leao basically doing no pressing, basically doing no tracking back, making no tackles, not joining in with the collective work of the group, and certainly in defensive phase. I do see his point here, but at the same time, I mean, that's not something. Players. No, but listen, I look at Inter, and that's true. Everyone at Inter helps out in both phases. There's no doubt about that. But that's not a Leao. That's Pioli telling him not to do that. That's a managerial. There's no way that Leao walks around and ignores, and Pioli doesn't let him say anything to him. There's no way that this is a decision by Pioli to push him up and let him be up there. That's not something you should be criticizing Leao for. That's something you should be criticizing Pioli for.
Has he got the ability? Has he got the character, the personality to do that? Maybe he hasn't. Otherwise you would say, why doesn't he just do it?
Yeah, but
like Ronaldo never did it, or Messi never does it.
No, but I remember
those players don't want to do it.
Yeah, but they don't want to. But if your coach tells you should, then you do it. Otherwise, you have a problem. Because I remember vividly when Mourinho was at Inter, and a couple of games that I saw under him, Ibrahimovic was tracking back, and Mourinho stopped him said, no, you stay up there. You're not going back. You don't need. I mean, he came back for set pieces because he was good in the air, but overall, he just didn't want him to help out. He wanted him to keep this. So you do have this. This is a coaching thing as well. It depends on what the coach is saying. I wonder what's going on here, because Saki definitely would know what's going on at Milan, and whenever Saki says something about Milan, you should pay attention, not maybe for what he says, but also why he's saying it and the timing of when he's saying it.
I think it's an interesting debate. I think we'll expand on that in another show, maybe on our Patreon show. We'll expand on that, but we have to move on very quickly. Lazio booed off the pitch. Really strange Lazio, because twice this season you think they're going to turn a page. First after they beat Napoli, and then they get outplayed by Juventus, and then again after they get that magical last kick equaliser by Provedel against Atletico Madrid. And they come here against Monza, and really Monza outplayed them for long periods of this game. Dominated possession, they had double the number of shots. Lazio only had one shot on target. They barely created anything, just that Immobile hitting the post. I mean, Monza probably deserved to win this game. I mean, really weird, Lazio. What to think of?
I don't get it either. Lazio are an enigma, and I don't know what's going on. It's very strange. They just don't look. They don't look a team in harmony, and it's weird because, like you said, you expect them to turn the page, and then they just don't. But it's weird. It's weird, and the Immobile. Okay, he scored from the penalty spot, but I still think that look, Sarri's a system coach, and he needs to have needs to have, like, his defending and attacking is kind of starts at the back, and it starts with a number 9 and it ends with a number 1 with a person in goal, and vice versa, and it's just not clicking. And when Sarri's teams don't click, they look like this, and it's not encouraging. But then
he's
again,
not playing Rovella either. He's not starting him. Why is he not just start him? I don't understand. I mean, Cataldi, we know what we're going to get from him. Maybe I'm being unfair on Cataldi, but I mean, I'm not sure whether his level he's at the level required. If you want to improve, Rovella, I mean, just play him. Don't do what Napoli did with Nathan and wait, and then you finally play him, and he's probably your best defender. Just play him. I mean, you can't be any worse than what they've done this season, because without Novella, they've been. I mean, what was it? 1 win and 1 draw, and this season, Napoli, in 5 games. Oh, sorry, Lazio. Oh. Sorry, was it 1 win and 1 draw in 5 games?
Yeah, it's 1 win. Yeah, 1 win, 1 draw. It's the worst start in ever or something. What was it, since 2001?
2002 or something, or 2001, 2002. Yeah, not good.
No, they're not in a good place. They're not.
Other Serie A matches this weekend. So Salernitana 1, Frosinone 1, Lecce 1, Genoa 0. Surprise team of Serie A.
I mean, look, I always have a weak spot for all the teams from the south, but look, if Inter don't win the Serie A, I hope Lecce does. Like, seriously, I'm in love with Lecce. This Lecce.
I'll tell you what, they've got a really interesting attack, Lecce. It'll be interesting to see how they do against Juventus on Tuesday, because they've got an interesting attack. Kristicic.
No, you were gonna make these poor people pay. You were gonna destroy them.
Almqvist and I mean, I like Banda. He's got no end product, but I like watching him. I like watching him. He's an amazing dribbler. He's the kind of player that he'll dribble around the same player 5 times and then give it away. That's the kind of player. But I love watching him. Like, he's always like, if you look at the stats, he's like one of the best dribblers in Serie A last season. Lamek Banda. I love watching him play.
And also the like Remy Udan, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
No, they've got these like these little interesting little players, and now
they've still got the farmer as well. He's still there.
Yeah, I mean the actual. Well, he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was sent off, so he was suspended this game. But I mean, of course,
Roberto the Prem faces learn about that. They'll have a field day.
And Roberto D'Aversa, of course, who we know is a good coach, and is here. So no, Lecce, and of course at the Via del Mare, at home they are. They have such an incredible support, and it's still pretty hot there as well. And no, Lecce, nothing but love for Lecce.
Yeah, Atalanta 2, Cagliari 0. Atalanta up to 5th. Cagliari looking more and more like the weakest team in Serie A after Empoli, I think.
When do you reckon Ranieri gets sacked? Because I think he's up.
Yeah, it's not easy though, is it? They don't really have much quality there, and they don't have much firepower.
Well, neither did Empoli, but the man still sacked him. So what can you do?
Yeah. Udinese 0, Fiorentina 2. Udinese had so many chances. Fiorentina, I don't know how, but they're up to 4th somehow. I don't know how they're there, but they're in 4th place. Lorenzo Luca
conceded. Yeah.
Did you see the open goal? Lorenzo Luca missed. Oh my gosh! And just to think that not long ago we were like banking on him being like Italy's next. Like we
weren't banking on it.
Okay, we were banking, but we were praying. Like, can you be our savior?
Exactly, we were praying. It was a Hail Mary, and he was doing good things. But then again, that just illustrates the point about the number 9 crisis in Italian football that stretches back for 15 years, which we did a segment on a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember a prolonged period of time ever in Italian football history where you've not had any top class number 9s, or there's been so few of them for such a consistent long period of time.
Okay, final game of the weekend. We're recording this before Roma versus Torino, but I'm sure we will talk about this on the Tuesday Q&A show. So maybe Nima make a note of that. We'll make sure we'll usually have one question on Roma, so we'll make sure that we'll talk about that. Then, so it's a midweek round this week. The midweek Serie A matches are Juventus, Lecce on Tuesday, then Cagliari, Milan, Empoli, Salernitana, Verona, Atalanta, Inter, Sassuolo, Lazio, Torino, Napoli, Udinese, and then on Thursday, Frosinone, Fiorentina, Monza, Bologna, Genoa, Roma. before we get to Badger and Prem-Face of the week, we're just going to do a little segment for our YouTube page, because we're getting a lot of people asking us to define what is a Prem-Face. Now, the word Prem-Face has now gone mainstream, as we will explain in a minute on our Badger and Prem-Face segment. It's gone mainstream. Now the mainstream media are now starting to use this term. It's a term, to give you a bit of background on this, it's a term that I coined probably almost 15 years ago. And I have to be honest that I didn't actually come up with the name myself. It was while I was at goal, and it was in a work meeting, and I was with a Scotsman called Ewan MacDonald, right, who used to be a football journalist. He's no longer anymore. And can't remember what we were talking about, but we were talking about, I think, some kind of English mainstream media journalist, and how, he something stupid that he said about European football. And Ewan just come out and goes, "Oh God, what a Prem-Face he is." And I just thought, that is brilliant. That is just the perfect way of describing your typical kind of English Premier League fan or journalist who is just willfully ignorant about any football outside of England. So I took this proudly, I'm proud of it. So I started using this word. I started Twitter. This was around the time that Twitter was born, and I started using it on Twitter, just as almost just jokingly, really. No, I didn't mean anything mean by it. And then I used it in some of my articles that I used to write. I used to regularly write features on there on Goal. And then it started to take off. People started copying it and using it on social media as a kind of like an insult, as a way to mock a kind of an English Premier League fan who doesn't know anything about football, doesn't watch any football outside of the Premier League, doesn't know anything. Prem faces will repeat kind of stereotypes. So if they're talking about Serie A, they'll call it a retirement home, or corrupt, or they'll play, or Italy play catenaccio. And if they're talking about Germany, they'll call them efficient. They must never be written off. They'll never call them Germany. They'll always be called the Germans. Always notice that about Prem-Face. Germany, it's never England are playing Germany. It's always England are playing the Germans. Like they're an alien species. Always notice that, and you see it on TV, like BBC when they're introducing a World Cup game that Germany are playing. So today on the BBC we have Ecuador are playing against the Germans. If it's Argentina, it'll be they're divers. These kind of things. And then if England are playing in a World Cup,
they're always the favourites before every tournament.
So these are the kind of things. We could go on. Everybody knows what Prem-Face is now. I think it's started.
And then, of course, declare your astonishment at how England could lose, 2-1 or draw goalless against a team where not even one player would make the England team. That to me is the definition of a like that.
There's lots of things that Prem-Face is,
and of course, Premier League proven or unproven unless you played in the Premier League.
Yeah, unproven unless you played in the Premier League. If you're comparing a Premier League team to a team from outside the Premier League, you'll always do how many of that foreign team's players would get into the Premier League team. You'll see that all the time. Whenever they're previewing a Champions League game between,
anyone and anyone,
Man City and someone else, it will always be, well, how many of that team would get into the Man City team? So these are the kind of things. So that is really the definition of a Prem-Face, and it's just something. Just don't take it too seriously. Don't be mean with it. Just something just to kind of have a laugh about, really. And it's not all fans of the Premier League are Prem-Faces.
No, of course not.
Or all fans of the England national team are Prem-Faces.
No, absolutely not.
All journalists in the English media
absolutely not.
Are Prem-Faces.
There's a specific bunch who are very loud in the mainstream British media who are, I would say, are the ones that they're the loudest. They're the ones that you hear about. It's always the same 5 to 10 people, I'd say.
Yeah, like Martin Samuel was a good example of a Prem-Face.
And also 5. my experience is like most English football fans that I've ever encountered, whether it's when I lived in the UK and went to university, were actually quite knowledgeable, to be honest. Like, or when I was, when I've been invited on, other podcasts about, football, English football. Usually, I mean, more often than not, the person, like I was on an Aston Villa podcast, and the guy there, it felt like I was talking to a friend of 20 years. He was a complete football nerd. He'd watched the Serie A all his life. He remembered these details of that most people that even watch the Serie A don't even remember. Like, so my experience is that this is a very specific, small but very loud group of people that go on about this, that do this, and that's something that we discovered this week, didn't we? As well.
Absolutely. That brings us nicely on to Baggio and Prem Face of the week. Well, let's start with Prem Face then. It has been, as I said at the top, it's been a Prem-demic this week. There is so many Prem Faces to pick from. One of our patrons did tweet us and said, it's the easiest job in the world, picking Prem Face of the week. But actually, sometimes it's not the easiest job in the world because there's so many to pick from. It's like, it's like going through, letter after letter after letter. Like, which one do I pick from? It's like, it's ridiculous. I mean, this week, Tariq Panja stands out because that went absolutely viral.
But that was when did he say that? Was that after
before Milan versus Newcastle? He said a lot of the talk about Newcastle facing a tough ask in the Champions League opener away in Milan. I would argue that Brentford at the weekend is tougher.
Get out. Okay.
And obviously that really, that did. To be fair, it triggered the whole, not only Milan fan base, but Twitter.
I wasn't triggered because I'm used to that particular person saying outrageously stupid things about things he obviously doesn't understand. The thing that was hilarious, and we spoke about this on the Thursday pod, is that what people were reacting to was not the fact that he said that the Premier League outspends every other team and therefore has financial muscles and draws better talent and so on, which is what he also said. But what the point was, and which everyone reacted to, was that Brentford is a tougher opponent than Milan in the Champions League. That's a ridiculous thing to say. And we're not talking about the stature of the clubs. I'm talking qualitatively on the pitch. We might be there one day where what he says is true, but we're not there now. And that's what people were reacting to. But instead of him engaging in that and saying, okay, maybe I misspoke, or I didn't mean it like that, blah, blah, he doubles down like an insolent child, like a petulant child, and starts pretending like, oh, people don't like the truth. It's like, what? That now again, if you find, if you speak to any Serie A fan, I would say that Serie A fans are probably the most critical of the Serie A than anyone else on earth. You're not going to find very many, I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but you're not going to find very many Serie A fans who think the Serie A is well run and well organized. No. I don't think you'll find any, because Serie A fans are very, very aware of what the problem with the league is, and they want it to change. So, and also Serie A fans are generally, and journalists are aware of what the issues in the Italian football is. In fact, most of them make fun of it, and they know that the Premier League is better and have more money. No one's denying that. The issue is the arrogance of equating and saying that Brentford away or at home is, for Newcastle, is a tougher team than Milan, when that's just simply not true.
Saying Brentford are a better team than Milan.
It's just simply not true. Insane. It's just simply not true. And people taking issue with that are not, again, I call it, what's his name at Arsenal?
Ben White syndrome.
Yes, Ben White syndrome. Being inserted into a situation that you have done nothing to be inserted into. That Brentford are a lovely team. They're so well run. Hats off to them. But it's not the point. I don't even think they would compare themselves to Milan. Yes, they can spend probably more, net spend more on the transfer window because of the Premier League pool, TV pool, and blah blah blah. All of that is true, but I don't think they themselves would say that we're a better side than Milan are today. And that's the thing, and that's what's so funny about it. And that's why, when people are this arrogant and so easily offended as well, and start playing the victims, and as if they're like a persecuted minority and they're just the truth sayers, then it becomes funny to make fun of them because they're being ridiculous. And when people are being ridiculous,
and that's what I did. I just had a laugh with it. I mean,
exactly.
I did. I don't know if everybody listening hasn't seen it yet. Go onto my Twitter or go onto the Italian Football Podcast Instagram account, and I made a little 2-minute video where I did a parody. I played the part of
the Prem face.
Of the Prem face, yeah,
Carl from Bedford.
I did a reaction to Milan's game against Newcastle, actually, where I played the parts. I acted the parts of Prem face, and it went viral. It's had over 200,000 views. I didn't know I was such a good actor because I was. You
were told as an 8-year-old that you weren't. What was it? Yeah. Your acting teacher said.
Yeah, as I said on the Thursday podcast, I was told at the age of 8 at school by my drama teacher that I'm the worst actor that she'd ever seen. So I didn't know how to.
This is to me to tell first of all, if you're a drama teacher for children at like primary school level, I mean. Who did you have as your? Either you had Stanley Kubrick as your drama teacher, or a character off a Ricky Gervais TV show? Like, it's just insane. Who turns up to an 8-year-old and says, "You're the worst actor I've ever seen"?
I was really bad. She was probably right, to be fair. But
still, you didn't say, as a drama teacher of a primary school, you tell an 8-year-old you're the worst. What would she expect? That you were like some sort of Sir Laurence Olivier? I just see this in my head, and it just feels like a bloody parody. All of it. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So but the most hilarious thing to come out of this is like a few hours after I put out that video. Martin Samuel then was then on some podcast himself.
It was the Times.
The Times, yeah, the Times. That's right, yeah. And he said in that it was like he virtually copied my entire parody.
Yeah, he really did.
He really did. You know,
without being a parody.
Without it being a parody, like he used all my lines.
Yeah, all your points.
All my points that he basically copied. Maybe he did watch it. Like
no, he is like that.
He started saying how many of the Milan team he would get in the Newcastle team. He wouldn't get in the Newcastle team, and he's a Chelsea reject, and he's a Chelsea reject, and he's a Chelsea reject. And then he goes, then you've got Brighton. I mean, Brighton, if they finish 6th in the Premier League, well, that makes them the top 10 in Europe, And then about 2 hours later, Brighton lose to AEK Athens,
Which was so beautiful. It was so beautiful when that happened. No, but it is that. And yeah. Yeah, no.
My favourite comment was somebody calling him a toad.
That ended me as well. I saw that too, and I was like, okay, that's.
And we
enough.
don't even have time. We don't have time, Nima, to talk about Max Rushton. If you want
to
hear
about, to talk about,
if you want to hear about Nima's war against Max Rushton,
I don't have a war with Max Rushton. But what I will tell you is this: that Max Rushton has spoken extensively on TV, 2 podcasts that I'm aware of. Because I asked people to stop sending me things because I feel like at this point I should be changing his diapers now. Like, he's been crying incessantly, saying that he was attacked and yelled at and I don't know, this, that and the other. And I just feel that either this guy is the most thin-skinned human being to ever live, or I don't know what his end game is, and it's actually quite pathetic. And I'm just like ignoring it now. I ask people not to send me stuff anymore because this is
such a bully, Nima.
I'm so mean. No, it's ridiculous. So I'm just saying, you know what? I hope whatever. Like, I can't deal with people who are so easily offended and invent things that haven't happened to prove what a victim they are. I just find it exhausting. People like that exhaust me. And so after hearing about him talking about it on 2 podcasts and on Australian national TV, I feel like, yeah, I'm done.
To be fair, though, those that did say that about Newcastle having a tougher ask against Premier League teams. Well, that was proven on Sunday as Newcastle beat Sheffield United 8-0.
Yes, that's tough. That's tough.
Very tough. Very, very tough. Okay, do we actually have a Badger of the week?
Yeah, don't we?
Who are we going to go for?
Dimarco's goal is beautiful.
What about me? What about my acting performance?
Yes. You know what? I think you deserve it, especially since you
deserve an Oscar. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Since you were traumatized emotionally as a child when you were 8-year-old. As an 8-year-old,
I finally got redemption. I should send it to that drama teacher and say, "See, you said I couldn't make it. Well, here I am."
I can't act, but you see, I could.
Here I am. 200,000 people have watched me act now.
Yeah, exactly. So good. Tell an 8-year-old that you're the worst actor I've ever seen. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Okay, right. Let's leave it at that. We'll be back on Tuesday for the Q&A, and then we'll be back again for a review of the midweek show. We're not sure 100% when that will be. Thursday or Friday. We will review the midweek action. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. Have a good week. We will see you on Tuesday. Ciao, ciao.